What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fi here for the last day of the regular season of baseball. Thank you again to everybody for joining us and staying with us the whole time. Please like the video and subscribe and all that stuff if we haven't told you already. We're NBA, which is definitely my best sport, coming up really soon, so that's going to be a lot of fun. We've got, obviously, football season, which is always a blast. Football has been good to me lately after a little bit of a rough start, and now we're talking about the last day of baseball. So I'm going to tell you, you're going to play a lot of slates in your life. Those of you guys who play, it's hard to stop playing, and we always keep playing. And you're not going to have any slates as weird as this one. This is absolutely bizarre. I can't assure you that almost any team is going to let their hitters get their full amount of at-bats. There's a few guys individually that I feel comfortable will. But for the most part, it's really, really hard today. And I think you sort of you can go the stacking route if there's a team that's not playing for anything. Like the White Sox, I think, want to have a winning record this year. So I think that whoever plays is probably staying in the game. But the weird part is if they really want a winning record, why are they playing these guys, and why wouldn't they use pinch hitters late in the game if it was a close game to try to get that 82 and 80 record? It matters to some teams. As a Dodger fan, I'm not really used to it. We mostly are interested in winning titles, and if not, it's kind of a lost season, unfortunately. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to say what's up to my man K9. Good to see you back in here, buddy. What's up? Drop in your thoughts of what you're doing, because I'm not fully stacking, but those of you who are members of our Discord, and if you're not, you really should be. Well, it's still free. It won't be free during NBA season. You'll see maybe for the first week we'll do it, but take a look at our Discord. And I did post my early builds. Doesn't mean that it's right. It's just where I'm at. Everybody's saying Kershaw doesn't have a leash. Ohtani doesn't have a leash. Burns doesn't have a leash. First of all, I don't know if they need a leash. They're still going to project significantly better than everybody else does. And secondly, I think in a couple cases, so with Kershaw, I think they actually want to try to keep him around, 90-ish pitches. I don't think that, you look at, like I say all the time, look where the inning ends. You know what I mean? Because that's when he comes out. Whether it's 6 or 7 innings, if he's in the 80s, he's going to be taken out of the game. Now, but if it's 6 or 7, that's plenty. You know what I mean? That's more than what we need. We've been talking about fading Kershaw a bunch lately. I would take any of the 22s, 30s, 28s, 30, 25s that he's been putting up lately. That would work for me today. Obviously, a good matchup against Colorado. So I'm okay with Kershaw. I'm okay with Burns, who I don't think he thinks he can win the Cy Young, but I think that he's going to pitch as if he could. And there's, they don't tend to limit him. We saw them do this last year down the stretch with him. He's just throwing 1 million pitches. That was in a Cy Young season. This year he's coming in second, third, or fourth, probably fourth. But I could see them leaving him out there and letting him roll. I don't see them trying to overly protect him. And then I think Ohtani is the weird one, because I think Ohtani is going to be able to likely roll through this game to where he doesn't need to use all that many pitches. But I do feel a little concerned because he's the most, he threw 108 pitches in his last start against this team. He threw 100 pitches before that, 107 before that. And he is the guy that they would take a little more care of, you'd think. But I still think his upside is a little too high to ignore. Guys who I am actually taking teams against but playing are guys like Merrill Kelly, Adrian Sampson. I do think if the Boston game is good to go, I really like Pivetta. And I have some Savale, but I don't mind KC. So that's sort of my pitching pool. For teams that stack, meaning only like 3 or more, I have some of the Brewers. I have some of the Dodgers. I have some of the White Sox. I have some of the Cubs. Those are sort of the main teams I'm focusing on. I'm very heavy on the Cubs-Cincinnati game on both sides of the ball. That's where I'm interested. Not on both sides. I'm interested in Sampson, and I'm interested in both hitting options. I'm not interested in the pitcher I'm not interested in Ashcraft. Although one of these days that guy's going to have a game. He's got pretty ridiculous stuff for a guy who can't strike anybody out. If he gets a curveball together, that guy's going to be real good. We don't have a Cardinals lineup still. We don't know what's going to happen with the Baltimore second game thing with Toronto, but it doesn't matter to us. Atlanta, we don't have a lineup for, but you can guess by the run total, it's probably not going to be anything great. I think Eliza Hernandez, if you want to spend down a pitcher to get different, that's an option. I think Marco Gonzalez is an option, although I don't like it as much. I actually kind of like some of the Tigers against him. I really wanted to stack Seattle, but I'm very uncomfortable with how long Julio Rodriguez, Ty France, Carlos Santana, Mitch Haniger play. I feel pretty good about Torrens, Kalenic, Toro, and Casali and Crawford. I think all those guys are pretty much locked into their game, unless they need to try to come back at the end and they get a pinch hit in the 9th or something. But but they should be playing on it as if they were playing a normal game, in my opinion. So it's just about what else do we want? You know what I mean? Houston, very likely they only get a couple of bats, but then again, maybe they don't. I mean, it's the last game of the season, and why? That's sort of what my attitude is with the Dodgers. First of all, I think Gomber's an underrated pitcher overall. We all know that. Hasn't been as good lately, but just doesn't give up as much. Like, you go through his game log of power, he just hasn't given up that many home runs, so not stacking the Dodgers, totally fine. The one thing I would say is that with the offense struggling, I do think on the last day of the season, they might, they're not going to play for another 6 days. Maybe you do want to get some of these guys at bats. Now, I think a couple of them will probably get lifted, and it's hard to know which ones. Probably Mookie is the most likely, I guess. Maybe Trey the next most likely, but they were the ones last night. So maybe today it's Will Smith and Muncy. Really, really hard to know, but they're not, you want to go in on a good note. So I think that sending your guys out there is probably what they're going to do, even though they may not feel great about it. It may not seem great from an outsider's perspective. I think it makes plenty of sense just from the Dodgers perspective, and we're getting updates as we go. And by the way, that's the other thing about Ohtani. I think there's some glimpse in his mind or somebody's mind. Somebody tells him that you could win the MVP. He can't win the MVP, but it's not worth it to put up another MVP caliber season, and capping it off with a 10 strikeout, dominant performance and win is probably something that they're willing to let him go ahead and do. We know the Angels have let their players get theirs in the past. I feel like I'm talking about basketball the way I'm talking about all this, but so some individual bats I like. Again, have to make sure they're in the lineups because some of these lineups still aren't out yet, and we know we probably will get the Angels. Like, oh, did the Angels actually release theirs? Oh my God, that's incredible. Well, Trout might get lifted early today. I think Mike Trout is a hard one-off to ignore. I'm just going to go through some games and talk about some of my favorite one-offs. I think he's a really hard one-off to ignore. I don't mind if you want to play Seth Brown on the other side against Ohtani. For the Cardinals and Pirates, I think that you could make a very good case for the Cardinals, who had a run total, depending on the site you look at, 5.5 or 3.5. My guess is they just empty the everything and just don't put anybody out there. But then again, they don't play for 6 days. I believe it is for them as well. Oh no, they have to play the first round opponent. Yeah, I don't see why they would do that. So I am not on the Cardinals. I don't mind Oviedo. He's got a pretty good K rate if you want to take a bat against the Cardinals if we get an ugly lineup. And I wouldn't mind the Pirates, but I don't like the lineup they released. So Castro from the Pirates is a one-off that I would look at. For the Yankees, I love Oswaldo Cabrera at 3.4K, I think, and Oswaldo Peraza. On Oswald Peraza. I like the Oswalds for the Yankees. For the Rangers, nothing really but Jung as a potential third base savings. Atlanta, we don't have the lineup yet. I don't mind Elisa Hernandez if you want to take that gamble if it's a really weak lineup. Otherwise, I would just be very cautious that Atlanta is probably not going to have everybody out there. It is good hitting weather because they have the roof open in Miami today for what it's worth. Brian De La Cruz, JJ Bleday, my favorite. And then I will throw some Birdie into a couple lineups because I think he's going to get a stolen base today. That's just my bet. I'd bet you today he does. LeBlanc also you can throw into the mix. I don't mind some of the Marlins today, actually. That's another team that I didn't mention. For the Nationals, I think that Meneses and Voit are both very interesting. I think Voigt's really cheap, so I would probably go there. But the 10 miles an hour wind's blowing in from the left, so probably not as exciting. Depending on if this kid catcher is back in for the Mets, I would consider him, though, at minimum cost. Probably not going to be playing any other Mets depends on how the lineup shakes out. Because against Fedde, I'd like to take some bets, but it's really hard for me to figure as it is now. Detroit at the Mariners. Again, as I mentioned, I do like a little Detroit, like a mini thing. They're not putting the ideal situation against Gonzalez, but Torkelson and Baez would be my favorite two plays with Haas right behind them. For the Mariners, I like each of the bats individually. I just don't know how long they'll stick around. I think Torrens does stick around. I think Kalinick sticks around, so we'll stick with those two from that game. If the Boston game is a go, I don't love the hitting, but because again, 10 miles an hour, 56 degrees in from left. But it's still, you can get one out. So I would prefer the lefties, which would leave me with Devers and Verdugo and Ji-Man Choi as my favorite bats in that game. For the Phillies against Valdez, not really that interested, even though he struggled lately. Rhys Hoskins, my favorite bat there. For the Astros, they're all great plays. It's just who's going to stay in the game. Mancini and Diaz stand out to me as cheap guys who could stay in the game. So they're the ones I'd focus on. Although they almost did it all in the first inning last night, so who knows? I kind of have interest in both Louis Varland and Davis Martin in this White Sox Twins game. But I also have interest in some of the bats. It's 75 degrees in Chicago today, finally decent weather, sort of side blowing winds. But I like the Moncada, Andrew Vaughn, Gavin Sheets mix, and you could put Andrus or Harrison on either side. Harrison hit a home run for me as a one-off, which was nice. Was it yesterday or the day before? And then I also think that Jake Cave, Gary Sanchez, I guess Arias, but I don't know. Maybe they pull him out early. Like if he's 0 for 2 because he just hold on to the batting title. I think he's got it by enough, though. I'm not sure. Got to double check that one. I'm not that interested either way in the Minnesota side, outside of Gordon, Sanchez, Cave. Arizona, I have basically no one from their side. For the Brewers, I like the actual, like a little stack here. I don't mind. I think Jace Peterson will stay in the game. He's 2.2K. Probably a better value than some of the other ones I mentioned. I like Rowdy Tellez. I like Arias. And I like Adames the best. I am very concerned that these guys get 2 at-bats. So I'm probably going to have to pivot off of that to somewhere else. For the Cubs, I like everybody. I don't mind if you want to play any sort of thing with this. This is the closest to a full stack I would support. Nice hitting weather in Cincinnati. And Cincinnati, obviously, the best hitters park on the slate. So I am all the way in on the Cubs, mostly starting at number 2 because I'm not as interested in McKinstry, but I am playing some McKinstry. So you mix that one in. And I'm very into Adrian Sampson. And then I'm also very into where I'm not playing him, playing some of these Reds. Solano's 2.6, not the most fun play. Fraley's probably your best bet as a real play along with India. But I don't mind Kyle Farmer and Stuart Fairchild along with Spencer Steer to sort of round up those. For the Giants and Padres game, I was initially going to play some Giants. I don't think I'm going to. If I had to, it would be Yastrzemski and Wade. I think Wade is a really strong play, actually. I just haven't really found myself ending up with him with so much outfield value and good spend-ups, or reasonably good spend-ups. For the Padres in a bullpen game, I don't see why they need to let these guys get multiple at-bats, and it makes me really uncomfortable to play any of them, to be honest with you. KC and Cincinnati and Cleveland. I can't imagine Cleveland guys get all their full at bats. Still don't like Heasley. I do like Savale a little bit, but again, you have to worry about how much are they going to limit him. I don't think they're going to go nuts because he's not going to have to pitch for a little while, so you'd probably want to keep him on his regular rest. So I think that he actually is probably going to be okay. Clayton Kershaw, I expect to throw around 90 pitches, and he's been wonderful as around between 80 and 88. So I have no problem with him at 90 against the Rockies. And then the Dodgers are just, what will they do? And my guess is a couple of these guys get left out. It's really hard to predict it now which ones because it'll be when they come up in the order. The guys who I expect to stay in are the Bellinger, Gallo, maybe not Gallo, but Bellinger, Lux, maybe Justin Turner, maybe not. I don't know. I could really see Bellinger, Lux, Gallo, the bottom of the order being the most likely to stay in the game. So just factor that all in. The Padres, the problem I have is it's a bullpen game against the Padres where they have nothing to gain from winning. So why wouldn't they just then go ahead and give these guys 2 at bats? They actually have to play again sooner. Let me just double check their schedule. The Padres are locked in, right? Like I'm not missing something on this. I think everybody's locked in. Yeah. The Padres are locked in. So I don't know how much they're going to play any of these guys, to be honest with you. It's hard to know. And it doesn't have a huge bearing on things. So, but they're going to play in a couple days. So I'm not giving them the full at bats. If I was, I would like them. By the way, Alonso, Nimmo, and McNeil all out for the Mets today, which is not at all surprising. This is like the hardest day to peg what the starting lineups will be of any day. Anyway, so to give you a run through, that's sort of what I'm doing. Guys who I've got at first base: Hoskins, Tellez, Vaughn, Mancini, Ty France, and Santana. Guys I've got at second base: Castro, Urias, India. I guess India is my main one. India, Castro, my highest owned. I do have a little Josh Harrison. Josh Harrison also have a little at third. Spencer Steer, Yohan Moncada, Patrick Wisdom. That's pretty much my third base pool. My shortstops: Trey Turner, Willie Adames, Elvis Andrus, Kyle Farmer. And that's pretty much it. Outfield, Betts, Ian Happ, Trout, Suzuki, Bellinger, Franmil Reyes, Cabrera, as I mentioned, Ian Happ, Gavin Sheets, Franmil Reyes, Stuart Fairchild, JJ Bleday, those are sort of the guys I'm using in my outfield. Pitchers, as I mentioned, I have some Varland, I have some Pavetta, and I have plenty of Kershaw, Ohtani, and Burns with some Kelly and Sampson. So that's really where I'm at today, guys. Thanks, guys. I appreciate all the nice words. Thank you there, K9. I really appreciate it. And if there's nothing else, I'm going to get out of here. But let me know if you do have anything else, because I am just going to be editing my lineups, and I'm happy to answer and talk with you guys for at least another few minutes if there is anything else you're thinking of. Already getting ready for this NFL weekend. Unfortunately, not even sure I'm going to be able to play because I will be in Arizona for a wedding. So I am effed there, I think. But again, thank you, K9, and thanks to all you guys for subscribing and everything. Please like the video. And please keep paying attention. We're going to have some great new stuff coming out. We've got a new projections aggregators that we're going to aggregate all the projections and get the most accurate in the industry, which we already have the most accurate with Sheets' projections, but we're going to even improve on that in terms of ownership. You guys will have the best central source for information following TrueDFS. So, all right, guys. Well, we appreciate y'all. And I would say we'll see you next year, but in reality, we'll see you tomorrow probably for Showdown, and then we'll see you this weekend. And then I've got more football videos to go over, all that stuff. But let's end it on a big note. Let's have somebody with a big win today. I'll be in Discord when lineups come out. Go on and fire in your thoughts. I'll throw out what I think, and we can hopefully make some money on the last slate of the year together. So good luck, everybody. And this is Bobby 5 for TrueDFS saying we are out.